Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of What It Flipping Takes. Today I have a special guest, Conor Riley. He's with Apollo Realty Investments, a local company in San Diego. One of my favorites as well, so definitely we have a lot of great info for you today. We also have a really generous giveaway, so stay tuned. We are going to have you guess the price of a property that's being renovated right now by Apollo. So whoever guesses the closest to the sales price, the final sales price, is going to win a nice gift certificate. So stay tuned and we'll have you play the game. And yeah, hi Conor, how are you?
Jessica, I'm great. How are you doing?
Well, welcome and thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, anytime I get to talk about what we do day in and day out is always fun for me.
Well, I know with myself, I'm obsessed with real estate, and with flipping, it gets a little, you never know what you're going to get with these acquisitions and the sales of these properties. You never have a schedule for the day. I know you were putting out fires,
5 minutes ago.
Putting out fires on trying to navigate through every single transaction that goes through. I mean, there's a lot that happens from start to finish. So yeah, today we're going to dive deep into what it actually takes, what it flipping takes, to really get these deals done, and kind of a day-by-day play of what Conor does. So how did you get started? Because I know I met Neil and Apollo years ago representing a buyer, and they were doing this 5-6 years ago when I had brought the buyer to one of their properties that they were really good to work with. Is when I first met them. But when did you join Apollo, and how did you get into this business? Where did you come from? Let's hear all about your background.
So I grew up in East County. I went to Grossmont High School, and I come from a family of builders and contractors. I worked for my brother doing construction outside of after high school. He was a general contractor, and my grandpa was a builder. My best friend's dad is a contractor, and they were always kind of in the real estate market. I didn't realize it until years later what my friend's dad did, but he flipped properties and bought them and held them, and I was kind of always around that environment.
Yeah.
So after college, I didn't know what I was gonna do, and a professor said, just get into something that somebody needs every single day, and everybody needs some place to live. And I responded to a Craigslist ad here in San Diego. I went to school out in Hawaii, so I was looking to get back here. And there was a investment firm that needed property managers all over the U.S. They were buying up huge tapes of homes. This is in 2012.
Okay.
And at that time, they were buying anywhere from 50 to 100 homes a month.
Oh, wow.
And they just had this huge surge in inventory and needed somebody to help put out fires. So I was traveling all over the U.S., helping them put out fires, and they needed somebody full-time in Texas. So I moved to Texas with my family. Didn't work out there, and worked for another investment company that was buying up big pools of homes for Fannie Mae, Ocwen, and we would just buy them so cheap and then just put them on the market in wherever they ended up being, Florida, Washington, all over the U.S., and we would just sell them right away and make $5 to $10 grand a month per property.
Like
an analyst.
Okay.
So I would do all the grunt work for a month. We'd have, I don't know, anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 homes to look at in a month, make a bid on them, and then we'd buy anywhere from 40 to 70 homes a month. Yeah. And then we would just turn around and sell them right away.
Were you flipping them, or were you just...
I mean, we probably put money into about 10 to 15 of them a month.
So you cherry-picked the best ones to flip and then just kind of got rid of the rest.
Yeah, and we were okay making 5 to 10 grand on each property because we had so much volume and there was no liability for us because we didn't put anything into it. Yeah. And we ended up just selling mostly to other investors that wanted to buy and hold them or flip them themselves that knew those markets a lot better.
Wow.
But each month in 2013 into 2014, it started getting tighter and tighter, and I saw how things were changing. The market was heating up, and they didn't want to change their model.
Right.
So I got my license in Dallas and worked with a team selling a lot of really high-end homes and seeing a lot of different types of construction that we typically don't see here in San Diego. I mean, we sold a lot for 2.7 to Mark Cuban just so he could scrape down the house and move his brother in next door.
Wow.
Like just real crazy stuff that you don't hear about every day. And got to the point where I wanted to move back to San Diego. I responded to an ad on Craigslist that Apollo had, and I've been with them for almost 3 years now.
Wow.
So that's kind of full circle how I got started and where I'm at now.
Yeah. And so what's your day like with Apollo?
Oh, man, where to begin?
How do you start? Yeah.
It starts the night before, going through emails, trying to schedule what I'm doing as far as acquisitions, putting out fires. I mean, just like most agents, you get calls in the middle of the night when your client needs something. I get the same calls when something's going on with my project managers, or a buyer on one of our houses says that there's something wrong with the house and we need somebody out there ASAP because something happened that we did. Some repair needs to happen.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm getting calls all during the day. I mean, you can see my text messages and emails. I'm working at midnight, 1 in the morning if I have to, just either to save a deal or to get a deal.
Yeah.
And we got office meetings. We got a really great staff on board that handles a lot of the little stuff that I can't take on every single day, but I'm out there trying to see as many homes as possible, and also making sure the properties we do have are released right, and so they can settle in the first week or 2 weeks.
Right.
But there's so much that goes into that.
So are you out scouring the MLS for deals, or are you making relationships with realtors? How do you?
It's mostly relationship built. Everybody and their mom can see all the new active properties coming on, and we cherry pick some stuff off the MLS, but that's not my focus right now. We have, I get all the email updates, and we have people scouring the internet as well for leads and for active properties. But we get a much better return on building relationships with agents and then bringing us the deal. They can double end it, and then they get the relist afterwards.
Are most of the deals properties that have seemed to fall out of escrow several times, or why is the realtor bringing them to you? Is there?
At this point, a lot of it's just the trust that I built up with agents over the last few years, or they've heard from somebody else that it was such a smooth transaction. Like, just go with these guys; they're going to get it done.
Right.
It's like no worries.
Yeah.
Like, the last thing I want to do is make an agent have to talk to their seller and say, like, oh, these guys aren't really going to follow through on it. We're going to have to come up with something else. Like, I just want it to be easy for everybody.
I mean, it's really important, especially now, because we've gone through the flood of, short sales and REOs and distressed sales, and then, all the fixers that have come through all of that too, and that are still kind of going through the pipeline. Realtors kind of seem like they're a little bit, I know realtors that hate investors.
I don't blame them.
So, they're on the defense automatically because, you just, as a realtor,
every transaction
more than
different.
50% of the phone calls are, okay, who is this investor? Do they really have the money to close? Are they going to make me look bad?
It happens more often than not that we're the second or third or even the fourth escrow before it actually closes. And I get it. Sellers want to get as much as they can out of their property, but there's some wholesalers or investors that'll go in and dangle that carrot in front of their eyes and be like, oh, there's a offer for $600 when really it's going to close at $550, and they're going to jerk around and get other inspections done to try to prove that they need a price reduction. But they've already locked it in, so they're first in line now.
Yeah.
And I personally just don't like doing that. I don't like wasting people's time. If I'm offering on something, it's the price that I'm ready at, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about it. I'm going to close. And
how long does it typically take you guys to close? Do you guys have a standard
we can
day?
be we've closed in 3 days.
Okay.
Typically, kind of leave it up to the seller. Normally need 10 days to get stuff out.
Yeah.
Or less if they want to leave stuff in.
And do you guys do
for 90 days?
Do you do a full inspection? Do you do sewer scopes? Do you do all the little inspections, or do you kind of just know?
Most of the time it's just either my project manager and myself, or just myself. Like, I've done it enough times to know, like, oh, I got to do this and this and this. It's going to cost me, and I have a budget that I run that it's going to be 58 grand. And if it's just me and they need an answer right then, I'll usually leave a little cushion in there. But I try to get as aggressive as I can so they don't have to worry about finding a different investor to go with.
Right. So if you look at a property, so say I bring you a property, right? So I bring you a property and I'm like, hey, this is definitely a fixer. I don't think it's going to get any financing on it or whatnot. Bring you the property. You look at the property, you give me a price that you can buy it for. And then what would I expect as a realtor or homeowner? What is your next step? Do you guys send in a team to actually do the full inspection, or do you just go, you know what, we just kind of know where?
Just kind of know.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a 1940s home and they said they've never replaced the plumbing, I'm going to know I'm going to have to put $2,500 in there to replace the main line or whatever it ends up being. But those are one of, and there's 100 different things on my checklist that I'm going through, and it only takes me 10 minutes to do it, but the whole time I'm just looking at all the little things I'm going to have to do, and once I'm out of there and I give you my number, I'm 100% set.
What about, so I've, dealing with a lot of the distressed or maybe like an elder client or whatnot. What do you do in this situation where you have an elder client that maybe their health is not in the greatest condition, they don't have anyone to help them, they're a hoarder? Oh,
I'll just take it all.
You just
they can leave preferably they just leave whatever they want and I'll handle it. We've taken on hoarder homes where it's cost us $10,000 just to trash out a house, which is excessive.
Yeah.
But the seller's not going to be able to take it all wherever they're going, and if they think that they can, it'll end up costing a lot for them. More for them to do it than it would for us, and a lot longer to do it. I mean, it takes us a day or two to trash out a house, and a seller going through all their mementos or picking out what they want to do. I mean, it can take 3 months for them to go through all their stuff. Yeah. But it's kind of up to the seller what they want. We're totally flexible with needing time to get that stuff taken care of. I like to close on properties as soon as they're out, so I can get my guys in there the next day and working.
Yeah.
We even have some sellers that didn't need as much time as was in the contract, and they actually let us get started before we closed on the properties, and that cut down on our hold time considerably.
Right.
We got in there a week and a half before, so it looks like we bought it in June 1st and we finished it June 15th, but really we got started a couple weeks early, which reduces our hold time because we leverage our money as much as possible. Just most of the investors are doing that. So any day we can not be paying interest is a huge, huge difference for us.
Yeah.
Even if it's 1 day or 2 days, just trashing it out before we actually close. I mean, most of the sellers are out of the house by the time we close them anyway, so if we can get started, then it's a win-win.
And with the whole cost breakdown of what it actually takes to get a house flipped and ready. So I find, and I understand, I've looked at the acquisitions of what they charge and what everything is, and I mean, it's detailed, and you guys all have your formulas of what it actually costs to do these deals. And a lot of the realtors and homeowners and neighbors and whoever else, that sees that the house sold for a certain amount, and then they go, and they go to flip it.
Oh, they made $200,000.
Yeah, they made $200,000, and they're just like, oh my gosh, you guys are, and then the buyers, the same thing. The buyers are like, well, they're making $200,000. Like, I should be able to ask for this, and this, or I want credits, or I want this or that, because they think that, you're becoming really rich on these properties.
Off of them, yeah.
And so, what are some of the extra costs that people don't see? Because, I mean, they don't even calculate in the holding costs, because a lot of investors don't actually use their own cash. They use other people's money, or they use hard money. So they have costs on that, but also just, so the holding time, and then they forget that there's a whole nother side of 2 commissions to be paid when they resell that. So they're paying, the listing agent and the buyer's agent on top of everything. So that could be like another $40,000 just in commissions.
Yeah,
depending on the price.
Property, that's 5%, 4%, whatever it ends up being, but it adds up pretty quick. And on HGTV and all the flipping shows, they always just show the gross profit. They don't deduct commissions, closing costs, hold time. And another big thing is we have capital gains taxes we have to pay at the end of the year. So when our profit shows we're making $30,000, we still have capital gains taxes we have to pay. We also have overhead for our office staff, and we have some of the best crews, in my opinion, here in San Diego County. And, I mean, it's not cheap to run a company at the volume that we do. If we were doing 1 or 2 properties, we wouldn't need all the staff that we have, but we're doing 5 to 10 a month.
Yeah, when you're a company the size of your company, you know, and say the market does slow down, because I know like towards the beginning of the year, like even now, a lot of these investors are like, I really need a deal, like I need a project, and some of these investors, their return on investment are way lower than what they would normally want to make, or what their red is, because they need to keep their workers working. So they're willing to take that risk of only making like a 5% return, or, you know, versus what they want is a 10%, but they're, you know, or more, you know, it's not a huge return of investment when you're taking these risks, and they're willing to kind of go out on a limb and take these risks, because otherwise they're going to lose their crew because they can't keep them busy, you know. So
there's always turnover. I mean, the crutch of our industry is the contractors and the project management. If those aren't going well, it doesn't matter how many houses you're buying, like you're going to have issues, and it's going to come to bite you in the butt after you resell the property. Those buyers are going to call you when stuff breaks, or they're going to sue you when they think that you didn't disclose something that should have been disclosed. I mean, there's a lot of extracurricular things that come after we sell the property that a lot of people don't realize.
I mean, that's why as a realtor, you know, and I sell flips for some of these investors, and I'm in with these flips, and the investors just kind of, I like to guide them through like, hey, this, I really advise fixing this or doing this on this property, just to avoid some of those red flags later on. You know, part of my job is to help facilitate a smooth closing, a smooth escrow, and the buyer being happy. We want to all work together. I mean, the last thing you want is a bad name. You know, you guys are a big name. The plus side about working with an investor who has a big name and that you can find and track down is you could track them down. You know, so even as a seller, when you're getting all these investor letters, who you're going to work with, one guy you're never going to find. I mean, you know what I mean? You don't know how credible he is, or
he's just a wholesaler.
Right, or he's a wholesaler. That's a whole nother story. And then, you know, or a big company that you can actually go to their office and talk to, or track down if you need to, you know, that they're not just pulling your leg or whatnot. So I think, you know, having a big name is good, and having an actual address and in a location that people can track you down. But, you know, at the same time, you know, I think investors are targets to having a bad rap too, and people can really like put bad reviews and stuff like that, just because some people you just can't make happy regardless, you know. But I think it's always best to work with a company that does at least back up what they sell, or what, you know, what the work that they do. Because I know with the good investors that I work with, and those are the only investors I work with, are the ones that actually have an address that back up what they, you know, they at least try to accommodate any problems even after the close of escrow, you know. So
and I'm not here to put down any other investors, because there's room in this lake for all of us fish.
Are you sure about that?
There is. I mean,
I think there's too many fish, right?
It's definitely tight, and I wish there weren't as many fish. But I mean, the mom and pop shops, or the guys that are doing a couple a year, they have just as much risk on these properties as we do, but at the same time, we'll be able to navigate all the muck that can come with it a lot better than some of the less experienced flips.
Speaking of wholesalers, since you mentioned it,
double-edged sword. I love you guys, and I wish I could cut you out at the same time.
So just a little, like, so most people don't know what a wholesaler is. Most realtors don't know what a wholesaler is. You know, they have no idea the game. I mean, it is kind of a big game. You know, in a way. And I respect wholesalers because they make a living, and you know, they bring deals, and they're out hustling, and they're looking for good properties, and you know, they're looking for the deals, you know. But I've dealt with some shady ones too, that are cutthroat and strong arm, and all they care about is their bottom line and no one else's. You know, a lot of the investors I've worked with, they care about the whole situation, and they try to accommodate the realtors, the sellers, the situation. How can we make this easier, you know, on everybody to close this? And, you know, the numbers are the numbers, but how can we at least facilitate a smooth closing, a stress-free closing, you know? So with the wholesalers, what the wholesalers do, for anybody that don't know, is their whole intention, and there's two different types of wholesalers in my book. I don't know, maybe more in yours, but there's the whole intention of a wholesaler is to lock up the deal and then sell it to someone else for a small fee. So they make that fee. So say they lock up a deal at $300,000, but they know that they could probably wholesale it, and they try to wholesale it to another investor flip. They never have the intentions of actually buying the property and flipping it. They just want to make a quick 10 grand, 20 grand, however much they can. With the investors I've worked with who have wholesaled properties, they purchase the property with the intentions of buying or with flipping it, but then once they run their numbers, they see, you know what, either we have a lot on our books right now and we can make a quick 10,000 off this property, and we're just going to wholesale it to another investor that likes this area. You know, all the investors have their little pockets of homes or areas that they like to really buy in, and so
yeah, we've done that. I mean, we've wholesaled to some of the big box shops here, some smaller guys, and we've been on the receiving end of guys that ended up couldn't take it on. They got 10 properties that month, and they only wanted 7, and they needed to. I mean, they just couldn't take it on, or it was going to sit for a month or two, and nobody wants the property to sit, so they're okay with just taking a small fee, and that's pretty acceptable. But there's some, like you said, there's just like agents, there's different breeds, and there's some that you do want to work with and some that you don't, and you do your best to navigate that and make it as smooth as possible for everybody, because at the end of the day, they're not going to be calling that wholesaler. They're going to call me when something's gone awry. So we have to do whatever we can to mitigate that up front and be clear what day we're closing, this is what's going to happen with the contract, or whatever ends up being. And I think communication is the biggest thing that we have to have from the onset, just so everybody knows how it's going to happen. And it's the same with the wholesalers, because if they find out 10 days into escrow that they're not going to buy it, or they had no idea that they could wholesale it to somebody else, even though it was written in the contract, I think just open communication with the sellers or who's ever signing these contracts is very key.
I think the hardest part, you know, from realtors that work on deals like this, you know, I've been in the background of knowing about the wholesales, and then as investors is, you know, say there's a good property, a hot property in a good area that's a major fixer, can go cash only, and everyone is trying to get this property, right? So everyone has an offer out on this property, and you know, they say, oh, sorry, we accept another offer. And so you're like, okay, whatever. You know, it's like you're throwing a dart at the dartboard, because everyone is shooting for this property. But then all of a sudden, you didn't get the property, and then all of a sudden a wholesale email starts going around. So you would only know this if you're like in this little world of investors in San Diego, is a wholesale email starts to go around. And so people are passing around this wholesaler within, like, I don't know, what would you call it? Like the gray area? Like, I don't know, it's kind of like a shush, like.
And it only gets shopped around to, like, the guys they know can close it. But then another agent will see it and try to tack a fee on top of that for bringing it to you, even though I've already submitted on the property. Right.
So, like, between it getting around to agents and other wholesalers, and then also the investors, you know, it's like, oh man, we had an offer on that property, you try to get it, and now this guy locked it up, now he's trying to wholesale it and make a fee on it. And a lot of times, if you know what you're doing, you know, if you're experienced, you could go, well, you know, he's trying to wholesale it for this price, he's not going to get it. He's not going to get that price. We'll just wait for it to come back on the market, because that wholesaler never ever had intentions of, he doesn't have the money to even close it, you know, so he doesn't have the means, and he doesn't mean to close it, but instead of, okay, we'll buy, we're going to try to buy it and give him a wholesale fee or whatnot. And who knows how sometimes you just wonder, how the heck did he get that locked up, you know? And you just laugh because it's going to come back on the market. And then it does. And then you see it back on the market. But it wasted everyone's time. And now it has to go to someone that's really going to close it. But a lot of times these wholesalers, depending on, there are some really good ones that make it a very smooth transaction. And then there's some that are just like all over the place.
They read one of the books or get a DVD and decide they're going to do it one day. And which is fine. Everybody's got to learn. And I'm all about people being successful in this business.
Right.
Any way they can. There's a lot of room to grow.
Right.
But
and sometimes you guys buy wholesales from some of these guys. They do bring you decent properties.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a wholesale.
I just bought a duplex in Carlsbad from a wholesaler off market, and he made a good fee, and we're hoping to make some good money on it. But all that risk is still on us, not the wholesaler that brought it to us.
Yeah. If you're a good wholesaler, it's pretty decent.
I know.
You put the risk on someone else, you make a chunk of money, and that's why a lot of people want to, they study to be a wholesaler. And I've had people come up to me and ask, hey, I want to become a wholesaler. I want to start doing this wholesaling stuff. Blah blah blah. What do you think? And I go,
good luck.
Yeah, good luck. That ride is over.
Everybody else and their mom.
I'm like, honestly, the best ways of handling these deals is if you're a good investor and you know your numbers and you are going after every deal regardless, and if it just becomes a better deal to wholesale versus flipping it for you, it's like, okay, you kind of level out your exit strategies of whether you want to just wholesale this, flip it, or sometimes you just kind of clean them up and put them back on the market. It could be a decent house, but it's a hoarder situation where, you just clean it up. So
let's talk about some of the gross stuff that happens in the houses.
Oh, yeah. I want to know about that stuff.
Yeah. Enough with acquisitions. I do that every day. So let's talk about the other fun stuff.
So what's going on? What's fun? What's exciting?
Recently we had a house that it was a short sale that we got approved.
Okay.
And we had agreed to let the seller stay in for 2 weeks after because he needed the funds in order to move. And he didn't have a great job where it was flexible to move his stuff out. He worked slept during the days and worked at night, so it was hard coordinating everything. And it turns out he had like 22 rabbits that he needed. They were like his babies. Just like you might have dogs or your own kids, like his rabbits were his pride and joy.
In the house?
On this back patio.
Okay.
But it was like enclosed. It was kind of in the house.
Yeah.
But anyways, 2 weeks come around and he hasn't moved anything in the house. And we budgeted for him to be in there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And now it's 3 weeks and he's almost out, but now he doesn't have a home for his rabbits. So we had to spring to spend $1,500 on these rabbit cages in order to get him out.
Yeah.
Because he was like, oh, I might be able to build it, but it'll take me a week and a half. And at some point, you just got to bite the bullet and get the guy out of the property.
Yeah.
And it cost us $1,500. I used my truck to make 3 runs down to Santee for these custom cages for the guy. It was, you don't see this stuff on HGTV.
No.
Another really cool property we got in Lemon Grove, this family inherited it. This is a good thing. They had been there for a couple years. It was all paid off. They had free rent, and the house just kind of got trashed.
Yeah.
And they were just looking for a new start in a new home, and they left everything behind, which wasn't a lot, but the grandfather who designed and built this really contemporary house in Lemon Grove was a mid-century modern enthusiast, and they left all this awesome furniture behind.
Oh.
It's in my blood to flip stuff, so I sold a lot of it right away and made some money off of it. But I got this set of chairs. It was just beautiful, unique set of 8 chairs that I just had refinished, and they're worth like $5,000.
Wow.
So that's just a testament of knowing the value of something and somebody else not knowing the value. It happens with our homes all the time.
We could start another show, Flipping Hoarders.
I know. In college, I flipped furniture. I flipped surfboards. I flipped anything.
I found cool stuff too. Once the house closes,
That's my favorite thing to do. Is
you
go
have
through.
them sign that disclosure.
Yeah.
You know, anything left behind after it closes, you know, you're not responsible for. You know, it's like usually you guys trash out the stuff, and if you dump it and they left it, that's it. You know, so
day one. I mean, my guys are there going through, like, figuring out what they got to trash and demo, and I'm there, like, scouring, like, what cool stuff got left behind.
Yeah.
But day one, like, we'll trash it out, do demo for 2 days, and, I mean, we're turning around homes anywhere from 30 to 40 days. Full remodel, windows, kitchen, bathrooms.
Yeah.
One thing that I really enjoy is, I mean, we all have about the same budget for these homes, like, REIG or PGI or any of these guys are going to go into the home and know, okay, we got 60 grand to put into it.
Right.
But at the prices that we're seeing today in the market, I feel like a lot of buyers are expecting a lot more out of these houses, and we're all paying the same amount and putting the same amount into them. What can we do different to kind of set us apart? And that's one thing I really enjoy doing. One of our best homes that we did this year was this little Spanish house on Adams Avenue in El Cerrito. The comps were night and day. Like, you're going to sell this for $625, like not a penny over. But it had some unique character, and I was thinking maybe we can push it a little more than that. But I bought it at the price thinking I was going to sell it for $625. And I spent a lot of time picking out the finishes, custom appliances, how we're going to lay everything out. I went and bought these custom Spanish tiles that this lady makes, and just did a lot of unique features that we normally don't have time to do. Right. But I was like, this is a one-of-a-kind house that somebody's really going to be wowed with, and it's going to be their forever house.
Wow.
And we ended up selling it for like $680.
Oh my
we
gosh.
had 30 offers on the house, and that's what it takes right now.
Yeah.
Everybody sees the same white cabinets,
right,
marble countertops, and gray floors right now.
Right.
And somebody's
just
really
standing out a little bit different and going that extra step. Really,
yeah, or maybe we'll do an accent wall in the master, or something just a little different. So when they see it on Redfin or Zillow or Trulia or wherever they're seeing it for the first time, it's like, oh, I kind of like that house. I'm gonna go take a look at it.
Yeah. Well, Conor, I could talk to you forever.
I know.
And I think
so
our
much
time
I
is
wanna
up.
Vent with.
5 minutes. All right,
Okay.
We got 5 minutes, guys. But yeah, I mean, definitely, you guys are one of the best companies, and that's why you guys do have What It Flippin' Takes, and you know you've been around for a long time, and you guys, I think, have evolved with the way that the market has had to adjust. You know, from a craziness of overflow of properties, of REOs, short sales. Now it's dwindling down to mostly like probates and trust sales and people who've inherited properties, or people that are just getting out of the state. You know, they're just sick of paying the California prices. They can cash out $500,000 and go buy a mansion somewhere else and retire.
It's very appealing.
It's not that the fixers are going away, but there's definitely, I think it's a trend that flipping is cool, and everyone wants to take on trying to be a flipper, you know.
Yeah, money is easy to come by nowadays. Like, everybody's got an uncle or has a buddy that has money, or a connection at a private lender that can get the money. Yeah. But, I mean, I feel, because we have to sell these properties, so I'm very in it every single day on getting these properties sold too. Buyers are expecting a lot more now. Yeah. They know that interest rates are going up. Yeah. They're paying a premium for just about anything that we're putting out. Yeah. And if it's not perfect, it's going to sit
that is definitely true, because I feel like with investors, any investors watching, you know, it is, I mean, get a pre-inspection before you even put it on the market. Like, honestly, you could probably, you know, hook up with an inspection company and get a pre-inspection and find out all those little things that aren't done, because all those little things, when you have a list of 30 things, okay, one outlet's not working, the light switch isn't working, this wire's loose, you know, those
easy little things for us to fix that a first-time home buyer is going to be totally freaked out about. So now you're 7-10 days in escrow and you fall out. Yeah. And then
it's like, oh my gosh, there's 30 things on our list of things that we need for our request for repairs. But a lot of them are just tying up loose ends. Yeah. And tying up those loose ends first make you guys look a lot better, you know. So, I mean, with a lot
of
the
happens
flips that
to
happen.
us. It just happened to us.
Right. It happens to all investors pretty much. I mean, you guys are flipping these properties, but there needs to be like a quality check. You know, even if it's a realtor looking through and doing like a punch list of like what we see. You know,
and we try to mitigate that as much as possible. We have an 8-page checklist of, I mean, it all comes from previous experience of things that somebody's called out, and the project manager checks it off the week before. Then we have a QC person that does it, but stuff slips through the cracks, and you can find a home inspector that can go in for $100, $150 just to point out some of the major stuff.
Right.
And we've done that before, but we kind of have somebody on staff to do that.
Yeah.
But I would definitely recommend it. The last thing you want is somebody coming through and canceling a deal over a $400 fix.
Because the buyers, they're very picky right now, and they're almost like, oh, are you making $100,000? Because they all think you're making that 100 or 200,000. So, you know, this is going to be a hassle for me to do all this. It says I have to get a plumber, electrician, foundation guy, a roofer. You know, it's referred that I do all these other inspections to get these fixed, and for a homeowner, that's overwhelming. Yeah. You know, so having all that stuff done too.
One thing we do to help mitigate that is, I mean, inspectors are awesome. They have their purpose, and some of them can be kind of doom and gloom, and others can be like, oh, this is a small thing, that they'll take care of it.
Right.
But we have a representative from our company at every single home inspection, just so they can tell them, oh, this is what happens. Oh, we'll take care of that. Don't worry about it. Just to put buyers at ease and kind of have a face-to-face instead of just hearing the doom and gloom from an inspector.
That's important. I think it is important. But you guys are great. I mean, you guys are.
Thank you.
You know, Apollo is one of the bigger companies in San Diego that do a tremendous amount of flips. They've been around. So, you know, they're buying up properties, cash, easy closing, as you said.
I'm just trying to make a living and buy as many surfboards as I can so I can go hang out at the beach.
Living the dream. So what's your information? How can they contact you?
Conor at apolloreinvestors.com or 858-900-1460. If you got a deal, just text me or call me. Email or text is the best. Send me the address and what they're looking for, and I'll get you a number.
And then, so they have a property that I went and viewed yesterday. Super cool Lemon Grove property. It's got this like accessory unit that could be used as a game room, another family room, a detached. It's permitted, so you could probably convert it into whatever you want with all the accessory and dwelling unit changes.
Yeah, it'd be pretty easy. It doesn't have plumbing hooked up to it now, but it's just electric.
Right. But it's a
but it is
full-blown
permitted. 600 square feet, detached, bonus room. It's a 1,280 square foot house, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, fully renovated, new roof, new kitchen, baths.
So we have a link on What If Flipping Takes page. It's got the preview yesterday. Now it's completely transformed from what I heard. It's almost finished at this point. But we're going to post better pictures. But it's not listed yet, so it is coming soon. And we're going to do a $100 gift card. So anybody that can guess the final sales price of this property.
Or the closest to.
Yeah, closest to the final price per dollar. So we'll calculate it to see who's the closest to the sales price that they end up closing it at. We'll get this $100 gift card. And we will announce that on the show once it's closed and what it sold for. So you guys start guessing, do your acquisitions on what you think the property value is and on all the stuff that they upgraded. It's a beautiful home. It's a great neighborhood. I really like the neighborhood. It's very quiet. So we have the address posted, and then we have a little video, and then we're going to post another video of what it looks like. Or we're going to get some pictures
I'll get some pictures by Friday
so you guys
of what it's going to look like. And
yeah, so $100 to wherever you'd like, any retailer you'd like, and we will grant that once it's closed, and we'll announce it. So stay tuned, keep watching us, and definitely like our page, please. Share our page, and if you're looking for a great investor in San Diego, contact Conor.
Thanks, Jessica.
All right, thank you guys. Oh my gosh, can you read that? Because I have my glasses on.
Daniel Gray says, so true, buyers want a perfect house these days. They demand more for less.
You are right.
Every day.
Yes. All right, bye guys.
Thanks, guys.